Russia started its Ukrainian invasion on 24th February after they declared Luhansk and the Donetsk as independent region. They started that invasion by attacking easternmost and northernmost Ukrainian cities. The easternmost because these cities are all along the Russian border. The northernmost because Russia is using Belarus to launch attack in Ukraine. Now after devastating east, north and the south, the Russia have started attacking the westernmost important cities of Ukraine. The one of the most westernmost important city of the Ukraine is Lviv. Here in this topic we will going to discuss why Russia attacked westernmost important cities of Ukraine, what West, especially NATO nations are saying on this matter, and what is Russia's say in this. Alongside this question, Indian government has issued a statement that India is shifting its Ukrainian embassy out of Ukraine to Poland, and why India is doing so. So let's start the discussions with first issue. The first issue is what have happened to the westernmost important city Lviv. Actually Russia haven't attacked the Lviv, but they attacked one of the Ukraine's biggest military base in Yavoriv. This military base is only 25 km away from Poland border and 60 km away from main city Lviv. Due to that attack, 35 people were killed and 134 were wounded. That is according to the Western media houses. But here is a catch, because the Russian version is totally opposite. Russian Defense Ministry said this airstrike destroyed a large amount of Western weapons supplied by the foreign nations that were being stored at the facility, and it had killed up to 180 foreign mercenaries. Now the question is why Russia is saying mercenaries. Russia is saying mercenaries because Ukrainian President Zelensky claimed on an television address that 16,000 foreign fighters are agreed to come in Ukraine to fight with Ukrainian forces. Therefore, Russia legitimizing this attack on Yavoriv by saying that as if these fighters were from outside, so therefore they have the right to attack and kill, because during the war anything can happen. And Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov have said its military would threat the arms shipments to Ukraine from the NATO countries as legitimate the targets. Why the Russia is saying so? NATO is not the part of this war, but the NATO is supplying the weapons like the portable anti-aircraft missile system to Ukraine. So NATO has become the stakeholder of this war indirectly. So without knowing anything, the NATO have involved themselves in this war. That is why Russia had attacked the westernmost important airbase of Ukraine. And because the NATO was supplying those weapons through those airbase and through this city, that is why the Russia attacked. And the Russia have legitimized its attack. Now we will going to focus on the importance of the Lviv to the NATO countries and the world. Russia actually attacked Lviv and the Yavoriv by firing 30 cruise missiles from its jets. Most of these cruise missiles were intercepted by Ukrainian missile defense system S-300, which Ukraine bought from the Russia itself. According to the Ukrainian authority, the 22 missile system, 22 cruise missiles were intercepted, but the 8 were not intercepted. That is why the 8 was on the way to hit that base. So, as the rest of this missile hit that base, turning into the sky into red. Because of this attack, the roads were blocked with the checkpoints and the authorities were conducting the search and the rescue operations for the dead or alive. These checkpoints blockade created the tensions among Ukrainian population because Lviv is the humanitarian corridor between Ukraine and Poland. The Ukrainian populations are fleeing Ukraine using this town, and the most of the countries shifted their embassy over there, including India. Already 2.5 million Ukrainian population fled their country, and almost 1.5 million are trying to flee Ukraine. Due to this attack, the panic spread and the chaos broke out on the Poland border. And the second reason is Yavoriv base was the NATO's training center for Ukrainian soldiers. When Russia invaded Ukraine on 24th February, then very next day in 25th, the NATO left that base to avoid any direct war like the situation against the Russia. They were avoiding the war against Russia. That is why they left. And the Lviv is the home for the International Center for the Peacekeeping and the Security. That attack has been considered as the attack on them too. So according to the ICPS, the Belarus is setting the stage for the Russian invasion to the Lviv. So ICPS is trying to say, as the Russia is using the Belarus, so that is why the Russia is also going to use the force, those who are in the Belarus, to capture the western Ukrainian parts, western Ukrainian cities. Although the Belarus is not directly involved in this conflict, but the Americans and the European officials remained worried about Belarus. Russia is not only attacking Lviv, but they are also attacking the Lusk and the Ivano-Frankivsk using the long-range ballistic missiles and the cruise missile. The situation in the western cities of the Ukraine is now deteriorating day by day. As these cities were considered as the safest cities of the Ukraine, now they are not. These are the cities were using by the Ukrainian populations and the populations of the other countries, using them to flee from the country, and the Indian students were also used these cities. Some fled to the Romania, some fled to the Hungary, some fled to the Poland using these cities. Now these cities has come under attack because NATO is using these cities to send the arm within the Ukraine to support the Ukrainian forces, and that has jittered the Russian forces. And the Russia do not want the NATO to support the Ukraine because the NATO is trying to go to the Ukraine. The Ukraine is trying to go into the NATO, trying to become the member of the NATO, and that will going to jeopardize the Russia's geopolitical security. So NATO have to come as a neutral nation, neutral group in Europe, to prevent any kind of massive war in Ukraine or any kind of massive war in Europe. Now the moot question is why USA and the NATO countries are so concerned about this attack. Because Lviv is the most close and very close to the Polish border, and West is suspecting that the Russia might attack Poland to kill the NATO's eastern advantage. Then all the Baltic nations, Estonia, Latvia and the Lithuania will be totally cut off from NATO's logistic supply. Beside that, the Ukraine is requesting NATO countries to establish no-fly zone over Ukraine. Yet, Western leaders have reportedly rejected on the grounds that it could result in alliance warplanes shooting down Russian jets, triggering a broader European war, risking a nuclear exchange. These are the reasons the NATO is so concerned about the Ukrainian situation. Russia have already threatened that if NATO will going to get themselves involved into this war, or the Russia found out any involvement of any NATO nation, then they will going to use the nuclear weapon against the NATO countries. So this is a very concerning situation in Ukraine, in Europe. In this chaotic situation, India is now shifting its Ukrainian embassy to Poland temporarily. This decision was taken by Cabinet Committee on Security, chaired by Prime Minister Modi, on India's security preparedness and the prevailing global situation in the context of the Ukrainian conflict. Most Indian embassy officials has already shifted to Lviv, near Ukrainian border with Poland. These officials were shifted to help the Indian student to escape Ukraine. Previously, Lviv was considered as a safe destination, but after Russian attack this place is no longer safe to survive. So India have decided to shift to the Poland. The Indian government has advised the official to shift their embassy, to shift the Ukrainian embassy to Poland. And the India's evacuation of the students under the Operation Ganga has already completed. So there is no way to stay in such an hostile war zone. So there is no reasons that the Indian official will going to stay within the Ukraine, as there is no safe place. So the Indian government has advised their officials to shift their embassy to the Poland, at least for the temporarily. And Indian government has issued the statement for the visitors that if possible should not visit the Ukraine right now, and Indian government strictly saying they should not visit the Ukraine right now because the situation in the Ukraine has become volatile due to the Russian invasion. So in my view, this is the time to stop this belligerent behavior of the both sides, Russia and the West. Russia have to stop this war, and the NATO have to stop interfering in this matter by adding the fuel to fire. And the USA have to stop poking by sending the help to Ukrainian population in the form of money or in the form of arms. If this madness doesn't stop now, then we won't have any habitable place left on earth, because the both sides are the true nuclear power nations, the NATO and the Russia. And it will going to take only one nuclear warhead to eat this world alive. So both sides have to come to a conclusion how to stop this war and resolve this matter amicably. So they have to stop this war. Russia have to take their step back, and the NATO have to stop and convince the Russia that they should come into and come and talk with the NATO nations. As the nuclear war is looming, so that is why this madness has to stop. Now we have reached our question part. The first question is, what actually happened in Ukraine on 24th February 2014? The first option is Viktor Yushchenko was elected to a second term as Ukrainian president. Second option is Russia started handing out protest to ethnic Russians in the eastern Ukraine. Third option is Ukraine claimed 19th century writer Nikolai Gogol was in fact the Ukrainian, not Russian. The fourth option is protest in Kiev over a plan to integrate more closely with Russia culminated in violent clashes and the pro-Russian president. The second question is, who was the first chairman of the USSR? The first option is Vladimir Lenin. Second option is Stalin. Third option is Mikhail Kalinin. Fourth option is Alexander Cherkov. If anyone have any questions or any doubt about this topic or any of the topic I have already uploaded, then mail me to my email address, which is tuhin.pawar.academy@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.